Loaded up. All right, will the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, April 19th, 2023, please come to order. This evening's meeting will be a virtual planning and zoning meeting hosted by Zoom. During this meeting, our procedures will be as follows. 1, when you first enter the Zoom meeting, you'll be in a virtual waiting room until the meeting host admits you. 2, please be aware that your camera, if you have one, and your microphone will be muted by the meeting host when you enter the meeting. You can turn on your camera at any time so that you can be seen by others when and if you choose to. In order to run an efficient and orderly meeting in a virtual environment, unless otherwise by the meeting chairman during the meeting meeting host will keep everyone other than the commission members muted. You will still be able to hear everything said by the commission members, even if you're muted and or your camera is not on. There will be opportunity for public comment during public hearings, at which time public participants will be unmuted. 3, the secretary will read the call of the meeting as published according to Governor Lamont's executive order. 4, during the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explain to the commission and others present what is being requested. The meeting host will share all related documents on the screen as needed. In addition, all applications and supporting materials for each application on the agenda are available through the public meeting calendar page of the town website, www.guilfordct.gov, and also through a direct link on the planning and zoning page. 5, comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. There will be clarifying questions from the commissioners. 6, there will then be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Please raise your hand to the Zoom platform and wait to be called on and unmuted. As this public hearing must be recorded, it's necessary for speakers to identify themselves each time they speak by stating their name and address. 7, after all clarifying questions are exhausted, those who wish to speak in support of the application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make a statement. Then those who wish to speak in opposition to the application will come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make a statement. 8, the applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners. 9, once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearings and the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. 10, decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Department at 203-453-8039 or by emailing planning.zoning@guilfordct.gov after 9 a.m. 11, all actions taken on applications tonight by the commission will be by roll call, and all commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. See this evening are the following members who will please identify themselves. Kevin Clark.
Present.
Bill Freeman.
Here.
Ted Sands.
Here.
Sean Cosgrove.
Here.
And I am Scott Edmonds. And Larry Rizzolo.
Here.
You'll be seated tonight, Larry.
Here.
Thanks. Staff present are James Stein, Town Planner.
Good evening.
And I believe that's it for staff. This meeting will be recorded via the Zoom platform and made available on the town website for viewing. The secretary will now read the legal notice.
So the legal notice has not changed from what Jernique sent to me?
Correct.
You're okay. All right, thank you. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a virtual public hearing on April 19th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. via the Zoom platform by using the following link. Attendees are advised not to go to the regular community center location because a physical meeting will not take place. The following applications will be heard. BC Sports, Inc. Petition for regulation amendment to Article 21, Use Conservation 1 Zone District MUC1, Section 273-183 area, location and bulk standards, and Table 3B. Guilford Agricultural Society, 111 Lovers Lane, map 40, lots 31, lot 138, zone R3, special permit application to modify the effective date of the fairgrounds new special permit approved December 2022 from June 12th, 2023 to May 1st, 2023. BW Bishop and Sons, 480 Newland Road, map 84, lot 34, zone R5. Special permit application for 2 farm accessory buildings greater than 750 square feet. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the Planning and Zoning Office and on the town's website. At this meeting, persons may attend via web connection shall be heard, or written correspondence shall be submitted to planning.zoning@guilfordct.gov 24 hours prior to the meeting day. Documents are available at the Planning and Zoning Office, dial 203-453-8039 for assistance. Dated Guilford, Connecticut, this 28th day of March 2023. Scott Edmund, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Do I hear a motion to open public hearing?
So moved.
Ted,
Second.
I'll give it to Larry. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, the first item on our is Anna Maria Visu Snap, Leeds Island Road, map 19, lot 13, zone R6, special permit and coastal site plan application for an open space subdivision dividing the parcels into 3 lots. This was continued from our 5th meeting. A request from the applicant for it to be tabled once again to the May 3rd meeting. Do I hear a motion from the commission?
So moved.
Second.
Nowhere? Hey, Frank. Second from Ted. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Yes.
Frank DeAndrea,
Yes.
and I will also vote yes. We'll hear that the first of the public hearings for that item on May 3rd. Next item on the agenda is BC Sports Inc. petition for regulation amendment to Article 21, mixed use conservation 1 zone district MU/C1, section 273-183, area, location, and bulk standards, and table 3B. Who do we have here to represent BC Sports?
Good evening. My name is Jamie Paoletti. I'm an attorney for BC Sports. I'm here with Doug Shaw, the CEO and president of BC2, and Kevin Hickson with BL Companies.
Okay.
And I guess I'll start off with, I think you guys have a copy of our application, and as you know, set forth in the application, we're simply seeking a text amendment, very straightforward, just 3 things. It's a text amendment to the Route 1 setback, the residential setback, and the maximum building height. And I think, you know, the 2 setback issues are proposed to be addressed in the new regulations that are being worked on by the town. And then the only outstanding thing to discuss, I think, would be the maximum building height. But if there's any questions from the commission, I'm happy to address them.
Yeah, if you could just go through and summarize for the public the changes that you're looking for.
Sure. So in accordance with section 273-109, we're seeking amendment of the zoning regulation. And what we're seeking in particular is a change. Again, this addresses the MU C1 district as up on the screen here. And you could see the existing zoning regulation is the black line, and the red line is our proposal. So the first request is to change the setback requirement from Route 1 street line from 200 feet to 75 feet, and that's including the buildings and parking areas. And again, and that's in the bulk, zoning requirements and the MUC1 district. And then the second request, if you go down to number 5 there, is to change the setback requirement from residential district boundary line from 100 feet, from 150 feet, I'm sorry, to 100 feet, as you can see through the red line. And then going down further, the third request is to change the maximum building height from 40 feet to 60 feet, which would allow us to proceed without a special permit. And as explained more thoroughly in our application, we believe, that these requests are in accordance with the town's, intent of the zoning regulations, where the town is headed with the zoning regulations, and is consistent with Guilford's plan of conservation and development. And specifically for the building height, I'm sorry?
I think we just have somebody that needs to be muted.
No problem. And specifically with the building height, we're seeking relief, based on how the existing, the calculated for the maximum building height to allow, this is for a recreational facility, so allow the type of sports activities that will take place within that building.
Jamie, can you, was mentioned that these are consistent with what we're coming up with our new regulations. Is that correct? Are we making a change here?
I believe that the new zoning regulations, and I'll also defer to Jamie Stein here, we've discussed this a bit, is ultimately going to change the setback requirements that are consistent with our requests.
So if you'd like, I can, thank you, Jamie. If you'd like, I can share my screen for the new draft zoning section. So as we know, the mixed use zones that we have throughout town will be consolidated into this new zone called the Business Mixed Use District. So what we're looking at now is the draft regulations, which are now in public comment and review. You can see here that we do have indoor and outdoor recreation facilities with site plan approval, as well as medical and dental facilities with site plan approval. We do have this table here, which shows us the setback to the residential district will be for a non-residential use will be 100 feet. And that is, I believe, consistent with the change that is being requested. The total building height, as Jamie did reference here, the principal building total height is 40 feet. We do currently in the regs have this sort of additional language carried over from the current zone. The one thing I'm not seeing here is setback from
Residential?
the street. No, I think I talked about that. Just setback from Route 1. I don't have that in front of me. I'll have to go looking for that one.
The minimum lot, no, that's a lot frontage, front setback. It's 50. As opposed to 75, what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you discuss for us a little bit more about the need for the height?
Yep, I can. This is Kevin Hickson with BL Companies, Senior Project Manager, 355 Research Parkway, Meriden, Connecticut. The request for the building height, this being a recreational facility, we're going to have athletic fields inside the building, and there'll be a mezzanine as well. But it fits the use for an athletic facility that is enclosed. And that is part of our request here for this to have it at 60 feet to have those ceilings, because if you're having soccer games and the ball's getting kicked around and stuff, you don't want to limit that height restriction on a particular use such as this.
you mentioned a mezzanine, but I would assume that you're measuring from the ground floor.
Yeah.
Mezzanine is part of the athletic fields, correct?
Yeah, we're measuring from the ground floor of the athletic fields, correct? It'd be the FFE.
Just a question, and maybe I'll direct this to Jamie. So these exceptions are being made only for this application, not for the whole zone.
For the whole, we're seeking a text amendment to change the text of the MUC1 zone. And it's my
Okay,
understanding.
so it would be for the whole zone.
Correct. It would be for the whole zone, which I believe impacts, BC2 as the prospective, purchaser of this zone and 2 other property owners to whom we, sent notice of this hearing. I'm not sure if they're present.
Could you bring up the language of that again, Jamie? Jamie Stein, sorry.
The language in the application? Sure.
Yes, please.
Hmm.
For the height part.
Yep.
The other part of it, this building that you're proposing to be 60 feet, what's the distance from the road? What's the distance from side setbacks for that building?
The side setbacks, hang on a second, let me get this called up here. I'll get those measurements for you, but the side setbacks are well over, it's about hang on a second. It's well over 500 feet in either direction. Now, the medical office building, which is closer to Route 1, obviously has a closer setback there that we're looking to propose. Hang on a second, let me get this other exhibit. So the medical office building, which we're requesting at that 75 feet, the actual building is about 85 feet from the Route 1 street line.
What's the height of that building?
It's a 3-story medical office building, and the height of it is 42 feet. And that's measured at the roof line. That's a flat roof, whereas the athletic facility is a gable style roof. And a gable style roof, per your regulations, we measure halfway up the gable roof line.
Scott, I had a question.
Thanks, Ted. Yep.
60 feet is pretty good size, pretty high building. Are we sure that our fire department could deal with a building that size?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the initial questions that I have. Also, by removing the stipulation of a special permit, we're now basically saying that any building can be 60 feet on that lot, which means it could be whether that's a residential building or, and obviously the proposal is for it to be a sporting facility, but by just flat changing it from 40 to 60, then your question becomes very relevant. I would probably lean towards being way more comfortable with changing the 55 feet to 60 feet and then saying that buildings greater height may be allowed by special permit up to a maximum of 60 feet when it's determined by the commission that the additional height will have no adverse effect and so on and so forth.
Well, let me ask a different question.
Sure.
This is the first time I've seen somebody try to amend the existing regulations as opposed to come in for a special permit. Why wouldn't we deal with this as a special permit request so that it would be only this particular applicant who's got a 60-foot building. The way this is worded, anybody else in that district could build a 60-foot building. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that, but I'm more worried about this, about the fire department's opinion as to whether our current equipment could deal with a building of this size.
Commissioner Sands, if I could, I did reach out to our fire marshal, Mr. Jim Considine, and he informs me that their trucks do have a 100-foot kind of boom ladder that can extend, and that also they have in buildings over a certain number of stories, they would hook into some type of system that essentially kind of extends the hydrant within the building. So I don't have quite the exact wording there, but he did assure me that they could service a 60-foot tall building.
Okay, that's good to know. But now I come back to my question. Why isn't this a special permit as opposed to a change in the definition of the definition of the zone?
Yep. Jamie Pialetti, do you want to address that?
I mean, I think because there's we're the main property owner here. I realize that there's other residential property owners. So there's, some risk that this could be an issue, going forward for the town. But I think that risk is very minimal, that there would be, a few other buildings that would require this height. Again, it's to accommodate the recreational aspect of the building, and BC2 is going to own most of the MUC1 district, except for carve out for, 2 other property owners. But I am hearing your concern, and it's noted. So I think that's why if we could, address it through obviously a text amendment, we have these two other issues that are easily addressed via text amendment. So it was our hope that we could also address the building height in a similar manner.
Hey, Scott, Kevin Clark here. You don't
Hey,
mind?
Kevin.
Just as a frame of reference, how tall is the Michaels building in the Fresh Market at Guilford Commons? Anybody know? No. Okay, I'm just curious.
It's probably somewhere in the range of 40 feet.
So okay, so they would have met the older stipulation of the 40 feet. Okay.
Correct.
All
I mean,
right,
I wasn't here for when we passed it, so I can't speak, but I would assume that's pretty close to what the current regs are.
okay.
Um,
Those are pretty
guess-
tall.
Let's see, the question for the height. And for Kevin Hickson, I guess question again for you. What is there a significant difference for you between 55 feet and 60?
I mean, 55 feet
You can sort it out.
is probably the minimum that they could,
What? Oh, no, I have to wait
we could utilize, but
first.
because we have to look at the definitions of when you have an average existing grade, which the average existing grade around the building, per your definitions, it's calculated on the average existing grade for the athletic facility is 201.9. Our proposed FFE elevation is 213.5. And so, yeah, we've gone through the calculations, and it actually, the average existing grade at elevation 201.9, it's 55.35 feet is what is required for this building. So it's just over that 55-foot threshold.
Well, Scott, what's the difference between 55 and 60?
So the current, the current reg that's being crossed out, has 55 feet in it as opposed to 60 feet. I'm just being thorough.
So you're thinking maybe a different procedural vehicle would be, well, if we ask for text amendment for special permit up to a maximum of 60 feet and then proceed with that route. If the,
Yeah,
if
I
the
mean-
commission's not going to be inclined to grant, you know, it's still our hope that we could do this again via text amendment because I don't think there's, I think again, there's 2 other property owners. So I hear what the town's saying, but BC2 will be the property owner for most of the MUC1 district.
Jamie, can I ask, what's more onerous, to amend the regulations or to do a special permit? And I'm also thinking, how does this affect the new regulations when they're put in place? This height change? Don't these expire in a fairly short order?
Jamie P, maybe you field the first part and Jamie S, me will field the second part if you want.
Well, I'm under the understanding, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, that a special permit would, be more lengthy and more onerous to, than just changing the definition or changing the actual text. And since we're seeking to change, the actual text already for the setbacks, we're hoping to address the text with the building height, as well. Considering again that BC2 is going to be the primary, landowner of this whole area. There's only 2 other, property owners, and the risk of, having exposure to a 60-foot building that's not a recreational facility is probably, very slim to none. I know Jamie and I also talked a little bit about the effect of the new regulations, and I will refer to her. It's unusual that we both have Jamie, so it's gonna be confusing here. But it was also our hope if we get this approved before the new regulations become effective, then we'll be kind of, grandfathered in our application. We would, submit our, application for approval under, the amended text. And perhaps I didn't explain that so thoroughly. So Jamie, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so Jamie, just to clarify my question, because we've discussed, in a totally different matter of the inclusionary zoning and what would it take to amend the regulations, and you described to me a rather lengthy process to amend regulations.
Yes, I mean, so I know that we are, thank you, that we're talking about sort of this development application and this text amendment rather synonymously, but they are 2 separate activities. So a text amendment really is just looking at our zoning regulations on the language within that zone. This particular zone, I don't know if you all saw my screen when I transitioned. Can you see the zoning map now? Are you seeing that?
We're
Anybody?
still seeing the application.
Okay, sorry.
Not
Let me just share this for the audience, and hopefully it will help explain what I'm saying here. Currently, so the parcels under question are here. This is the MUC1 zone in Guilford. So as Attorney Paoletti was referring to, the complex is utilizing these 2-3 parcels, and there are 2 other parcels that would be subject to this zone change. So to answer the first part of your question, Larry, they're 2 separate things. So a special permit is tied to an actual land use development application. And currently in the regulations, what the chairman was referring to is that you could submit a special permit application for a use that would otherwise be permitted via site plan if you wanted to exceed the max height. So we do kind of offer that out, and that's what Scott was referring to. But maybe what we're also talking about a little bit is site plan applications versus special permit applications. And so the special permit can be more lengthy due to the public hearing requirement. I hope that gets your question. And also I
Well,
too.
is there a public hearing requirement to make a text change to the
Yes, and that's what we're,
regulations?
yes, and that's what we're doing now. It also requires notification of adjacent municipalities. So the town clerks of North Brantford and Brantford were notified, as well as our regional planning commission was notified. But once this is done, it's done for any future application in the zone. Right, so you don't do it in tandem. You do a text amendment once, and then any proposal that comes forward would be under that new text if it were to pass.
And the regional planning council did respond.
And if I may, given that the town is also in the process of proposing new zoning regulations across the board that will, I understand, hopefully become effective sometime in early June, you know, those would then those would then govern for any other application that didn't have a site plan under our hopefully amended MUC1 regulations, if that makes sense. So, and again, addressing Scott's concern with, the risk of this applies to other applicants. Again, I hear you. I do think it's a technical risk. I don't think it's a practical risk, given there's only 2 other parcels, and coming June 1st, there's going to be new zoning regulations for which an applicant would have to then change the text again. Right. I mean, I think I have that correct. And please, I'll defer to you again, Amy.
Yes, that is correct. As long as, the application was received before the effective date of the new regulations.
In fact, in the new regulations, there isn't actually a number attached to the height. It's literally just any height. Right? Is that what,
No, there is a number of 40 feet.
well, right, anything above 40 feet. There's not a 55 maximum number in the new regulations, right?
Oh, good point, Scott. Let me just let me share that just so we can double check.
I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. Yep.
A greater height. Yep, a greater height. Mhm.
Okay. There's also in here discussion of changing table 3B. Do you want to go over that? Or is that not part of this application?
Well, so I can field that one. So table 3B is a portion of our zoning regulations that talks about the bulk standards and setbacks for commercial districts. So it's the associated kind of tabular format of the zoning text. So we would change the zoning text and table 3B if this were to be a successful application.
Okay.
And for BC2, it's important, as a nonprofit, we're really seeking to keep things moving as quickly as possible from a planning and zoning perspective. So again, it's really our hope that we can do it through this procedural vehicle, given that coming June 1st, there'll be other protections in place for the town. It would hopefully just apply to this one, application, and obviously just applies to this one, district.
Yeah.
Scott, I assuming the fire marshal was comfortable with this, I guess I don't have a problem with what they're proposing.
My only concern is that there's a couple other properties there's a couple other lots that could just all out of nowhere come with an application.
They'd have to come with one pretty quick, wouldn't they?
Yes. Unless we extended our regulation change somehow for some reason. Bill, haven't heard from you on this.
Seems like it's in keeping with what we're heading towards, if I'm understanding everything correctly. Is that a good assessment?
Yeah, I think there's no question that, or I mean, obviously it hasn't happened, but in the in this scenario where someone came to us with a special permit related to this application with a sports structure being the height difference, that, and judging by, I guess we'll open it up for public comment here in a minute to see if any neighbors have any questions or comments, but yeah.
Well, could we put in language that this maximum height is restricted to athletic facilities? I mean, that would make it virtually.
That's actually not a terrible idea.
That's pretty good, Larry.
Yeah.
I'd check that one with Chuck Andrus, but okay.
I mean, I appreciate you raising that, Larry. I think that might be a good option. I mean, we are amending the actual text. So I think when we're using this procedural vehicle, and again, we'll confer with Chuck, we would, be able to do that. So that's something that we could, the town can nail down. But I think that's a great solution to explore.
So,
Okay.
Jamie, are we assured that all the abutting neighbors, the people within 100 feet of the I've got this right, MUC1?
Thank you, Sean. The abutting sort of notification does not apply for this type of application. But the applicant did, as a courtesy, send both digital and hard copy communication to other landowners in this zone.
So all the abutting neighbors for the MUC zone, MUC1.
Yes, all the landowners in not abutting neighbors of the MUC1, but the landowners of MUC1.
Correct.
People who own parcels in MUC1.
So it didn't go to that. So it didn't go that.
I did not get a good count, but there are probably 8 to 10 residential property owners of MUC1. So if I got this right, this parcel is one of 4 in that zone. Correct?
Great, right?
Maybe we could bring that map up again, Jamie Stein. Thank you.
1 of 4. And so the Sullivan.
But yeah, but the BC2 is going to occupy.
3 of them.
3 of 6.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
What's the one in the upper right? Yeah. So there's 3 properties that are not theirs, but there's also 3 very large properties that are part of the Sullivan piece.
Yeah. But you can see that there are some developments that abut the whole zone, and we're making a change to the height limit for the whole zone. So
in keeping with that, I think that like 66 High Street requested to go to 60 feet and got that approved at some point in there. So I mean, it's not something that I see.
No, I think the difference between it's not a big deal. I want to be sure that we are crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's and being respectful of all the abutting neighbors.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's, and so, I really don't want to put this, as the attorney stated, and I respect their nonprofit status, put them through the paces of a special permit, but I want to be sure that all of the abutting neighbors are fully aware of what is going on.
Jamie, do we have any written notices that we need to read in the record for this one or anything?
We have a letter of support from a Miss Melissa Shaw. We have our ruling on the text amendment from the Regional Planning Commission, from the SCROG as well.
We do.
All right, so let's knock those out here real quick. Sean, if you could grab the Regional Planning Commission from South Central Connecticut.
Jamie, can you put that up? I don't have it.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Forgive me, I just have to find it. Here it is. Okay. All right, first, the Regional Planning Commission's decision. Here we go.
Thank you. April 19th, 2023, attention Jamie Stein, Town Planner, 31 Park Street, Guilford, Connecticut. Regarding 2.1 Town of Guilford petition for zone text change, mixed use conservation. One zone. Dear Ms. Stein, thank you for sharing the proposed zoning regulation text amendment. The Regional Planning Commission, RPC, reviewed the referral at its meeting on Thursday, April 13th, 2023. By resolution, the RPC has determined that the proposed zoning regulation text amendment does not appear to cause any negative intermunicipal impacts to the town in the South Central region, nor does there appear to be any impacts to the habitat or ecosystem of Wyland Sound. Furthermore, the proposed amendment complies with recommendations established in the Regional Plan of Conservation by encouraging density development in suitable areas and promoting community health initiatives. Sincerely, Charles Andrus, Chairman, Regional Planning Commission.
Thanks. Bill Freeman, can you do the letter from Shaw? I think I can bring it up here. Let's see over Jamie.
That's interesting to read. Sent Wednesday, April 19th, 2023 to Planning and Zoning, subject Planning and Zoning. Melissa Shaw, email mcshaw33@yahoo.com. Phone, I won't say. Issue, I would like to demonstrate in my support for the BC complex that is being discussed on tonight's agenda. This complex will benefit strongly the local youth sports as well as local businesses. I'm happy to see the development includes exterior sidewalks, which will also improve the connectivity to this part of town. And that's about it.
Is that last name a coincidence?
Yes, this is Doug Shaw, CEO of BC2. Kevin, that is a coincidence. I do not know who she is.
Just wanted to ask.
No, I didn't ask a relative to write anything.
All right. At this time, I'd like to ask if there's anyone in the public that has a question that they would like to answer. Mr. Michael Scott, is this a question or will there be time for opposed or in support? If you have a question, swing away.
Yes, thank you. Michael Scott, 593 Towner Swamp Road. I have questions first for the applicant and then for town staff.
Sure.
So I guess I'll just take them one at a time. It's a little awkward over Zoom asking questions, but so to the applicant, during the presentation, Mr. Hickson said that the medical office building was 42 feet high. Your exhibit EXH-4 says that the medical office building is 49.6 feet high. So you would be looking to apply the increased height to the medical office building, correct?
If I can answer that.
I'm gonna let you, yeah.
Yeah, I can answer that. That's the raw building height, 42 feet high.
Mhm.
But 49 feet is the measured calculation of average grade, 10 feet out, every 20 feet on center around the elevation. So thank you for that clarification, but yes, 49.2.
So the height increase that you're requesting could not be limited to the athletic complex, correct?
Correct. Yes, because I believe it's 40 feet right now. for the existing building.
That is correct.
Yep.
It is.
Yep.
Okay. And is it the case, because you testified that it was a flat roof building, that all portions of that medical office building in that exhibit are 49.6 feet high?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a
Uh,
flat roof. It's not a gable style roof, which you would measure halfway up the gable.
Right. So my next question is, what portions of the athletic complex that's in that exhibit are 60 feet tall? Or are you looking for relief across that entire athletic complex?
Looking for relief along that entire complex. Is what we're doing.
And as the site plan develops, if the athletic complex has to move, so too would its 60 feet move, no matter where it landed on the site.
Well, that all depends on the existing grade, right? So as you move it around, you change that height, but where we have it now, it's pretty locked into where we would like to have it designed to.
Right, but if the text amendment was approved tonight and that building moved, it would still be a tall building anywhere on that site, not just where it's shown in tonight's exhibit.
It would be the same size that we're showing it now. Yes.
Yes, okay. To the applicant, you talked about reducing the, well, for the sticking with the building height. If this is a hardship because it's an athletic use, wouldn't this be normally addressed either through the special permit process or through the zoning board of appeals as a hardship incurred on a specific site for a specific use, rather than carte blanche text amendment?
Under the current regs, it would be handled as a special permit because they want it the height higher than 40 feet.
Right, so by the text amendment, really, they're eliminating the special permit aspect of the application.
That's the proposal, yes.
Yes, okay. For the residential setback, I didn't see a reason for reducing the residential setback other than it's a possibility that that residential setback might change with the zoning amendment. Why is this residential setback being addressed now?
I could address that and I'll let Kevin also speak to it. I mean, it's to address the current, site plan that was provided, with the application. I don't know if it'll help to pull up that on the screen to clarify. There was a visual of showing existing and proposed setbacks.
Yeah, I can, this is Kevin Hickson with BL. There's stormwater management facilities that are within that zone, and also the clearing that goes with it. And that's our interpretation on that 100-foot versus the 150-foot zone, because we're trying to keep that at a, because we have that zone over, or that property at the northeast corner of this site that we're trying to be cognizant of.
I thought the encroachment to the residential zone was because the drive needed to align with the Tractor Supply curb cut. Am I incorrect in that?
Yeah, it's lining up with the Tractor Supply driveway, correct.
And to the applicant, the reduction in the front yard setback, I missed an explanation for a reason for that. Why does that have to be reduced?
Again, because of the parking and the building, it's actually pertaining to the medical office building, which is closer to Route 1. We want to make sure that we keep in compliance with an updated text amendment on that. Because right now it's 200 feet for that.
Right, it's a considerable setback, but it's the big site, so why not slide the medical office building and parking back?
We have other,
as of right.
that would impact the athletic facilities, and we're trying to make sure from the environmental side of the wetlands on the west and east side, also the clearing, trying to limit the clearing on the site. We're trying to be cognizant of that as well for this land development. If we push that back, then we're pushing everything back to the south, which is not conducive of what we're trying to accomplish here.
Well, has that been prepared as an exhibit? I mean, have you shown the extent of clearing of one version versus another version? Because there's trees up in that 200-foot setback that have to be cleared in order to build the medical office building tight to Route 1. So have you done that analysis of tree for tree?
We've looked at, we haven't submitted to planning and zoning yet, so we haven't gotten to that point at this time. We do know that the town does want to see a sidewalk along the frontage, which obviously would require clearing of trees along that southerly side, which is our frontage of the site.
The sidewalk's one thing, removing 150 feet of tree buffer off of Route 1 to slide the building closer is a wholly other thing, correct? The implication of what you said, are you drawing an equivalency between clearing for a sidewalk versus moving the building 150 feet closer?
No, where we have the medical office building situated where it is, because we have 3 athletic facilities that are just south of it. That pushing that is actually pushing it into the overall development. We want to just keep this contained within this footprint right now. Because moving that further away, it starts taking away either an athletic field or reduced parking. It's just not going to work with the operations of what we're trying to propose.
Okay, all right. But there's not necessarily a hardship other than all of the uses you want to apply to the site don't fit unless you encroach. Let me move on to the town staff, to Ms. Stein. It is the case that the business mixed-use development is not yet adopted by this town, right? This is just a draft, correct?
The whole zoning regulations that have been proposed are just a draft. So yes, the consolidation of commercial zones along Route 1 and the sort of coupling of our mixed use zones into the business mixed use is a proposal.
Right. And how many days are we into the public comment period?
April 13th was the day 1 of 35, and 35 will be May 17th. So
we're
Yeah,
6 days
that's
into it. And if this commission were to consider this zoning amendment in the context of the inevitability of this new zoning amendment, they would be circumnavigating the public process that is only not even a week into proceeding, correct? It's not a
no, I
foregone
don't believe that
conclusion
is
yet.
correct. They're looking to change the existing MUC1, and that will be in existence until the new zoning regulations are effective. I believe Attorney Paoletti alluded to submitting an application.
Okay.
Prior to that.
One important distinction that strikes me between MUC1, if it's amended as proposed tonight, versus its current disposition, or even if the new zoning regulations are adopted, is that the consideration of building height, additional building height, currently and in the town's proposed zoning language, falls under special permit. Whereas if we accept a zoning amendment tonight, it becomes as of right and a site plan approval. Is that correct?
For this particular use, yes.
For this particular zone?
So,
And for this use, so this, well, yes, for this zone, and if the use were indoor outdoor recreational facility, that is permitted via site plan.
So as amended, is it not the case, if approved tonight, that these revised bulk standards, all the setbacks, the increased height, would apply to any proposed site plan, this one or any future application, any future developer, BC2 or someone else? and any use on the site, medical office building, athletic complex, residential complex, starting upon your amendment and forever in perpetuity for the MUC1 zone?
I mean, that's correct.
Okay.
Any other
I think
questions?
that's the extent of my questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. I don't know the name, but it's iPad. If you'd like to go next to the question.
Yes, hi, going back, Tim Foley, 113 Kenneth Circle. Going back to the height requirements, from what I understand, there was a second phase to this project that was all residential. Would that also fall under these new height standards if it's adopted tonight?
Yes. Anything in the MUC in that zone?
Okay, well, as an abutting landowner, I just want to say that we are strongly opposed to this.
Okay, there'll be a section where we'll have folks be able to express their support and action as well.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, any other questions? No. Robin, friend. Sorry if I butchered that.
Yes, hi, thank you.
Any
Robin
questions?
Freund,
Sure.
25 Ann Road, Guilford. I want to just say I appreciate the previous person's questions because I had some of the same. So my understanding, it sounded like from what was discussed earlier was it's not just the athletic facility, but also the medical facility that's going to be a greater height than what is currently in the zoning laws, because it sounds like that was confirmed that the medical building is over 40 feet as well. That's what Kevin, the architect, said, that it was 40 some odd feet tall.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just add here, I think we need to be careful that we're not conflating a site plan application with a regulation amendment. We are speaking solely about a regulation amendment this evening.
That's right. That is, I think that is important to emphasize, is that this is changing a specific change to the code for a specific district, a specific zone.
Yep. So basically, the answer is that we should not harp on the site plan specifically. It's correct that if the text changes, then it changes for all possible scenarios in that zone, not necessarily the site plan.
Okay, so and that's my concern, that, and I guess this isn't the time for me to say anything against this. I mean, I just was trying to clarify that to me, it seemed a little confusing that the focus was on the height of the sports complex, yet it seemed that the height of the medical building was also something not conforming to current zoning laws. So it seems like there's actually quite a few things on here. Okay, so I guess my questions were answered earlier, so I will wait for my next opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Erica.
Hi, Erica Hetrick, 590 Towner Swamp Road. I have two questions. One is for the applicant. She keeps referencing two other property owners. Should the two other property owners also be applicants at this hearing at this time?
I'm not sure why. We're coming to you. Could you move yourself so I can answer? Thank you. So yeah, the application can be put forth by anyone. It doesn't have to actually be a resident of the zone. So it just so happens that in this case, it's someone that owns property within the zone. They were informed of the change because they are within the zone, and therefore they were informed of the proposed change. But it's not required that anyone within that zone is part of the application. It can be done by anyone that actually owns property outside of that zone.
Okay, thank you. And also, I know we're not supposed to conflate the application for the building with this text amendment. However, in direct response to the fire marshal concerns and questions, you had mentioned that the ladder can go higher and it can go into the fire hydrant that can be raised. In the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting, there is some question as to the source of the water supply and that it's going to be tied into Branford. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think there is a fire hydrant in close proximity of this land. So I do think it would remain a concern with the fire marshal and the fire department and their ability to, you know, put out a fire if something were to happen here. And I will mute myself now.
Thanks. Yeah, so that would come up in terms of site plan / building permit. All those questions would be reviewed by town staff and certainly answered before any project would be approved.
Okay, I just wanted to get that on record as that was a primary concern of one of the members of the committee. And I'm not really sure that the answer assuaged your concerns, given the fact that I'm not sure there's a fire hydrant around. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Karen Scott, question?
Hi, Karen Scott, 593 Towner Swamp Road. I also have a question about the fire risk. Does our fire department train for fighting fires in 60-foot buildings? And how much resources will that take?
I think we'd have to refer that question to the fire marshal, honestly.
Correct.
Any follow-up question?
No questions at this time.
Thank you. Jessica Harrington.
Hi, this is Jessica Harrington from 464 Granite Road in Guilford. Question, just a point of clarification. So the same way that the complex owners have requested for this amendment to the current regulations, for the adjacent property owners that this impacts, who are part of that zone, are they able to submit a request asking for non-amendment? And if so, would that then impact the request for the entire zone that's impacted here, if that makes sense?
They could apply to change the zone, to change the zoning amendment text again. They can't apply to contradict an application that's in process, but they could reapply on their own to change the text amendment again if they wanted to. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Does that, I hope that answers your question.
It does.
Okay. Any other, I think the two hands up have already asked their questions. Okay, so we'll move on to public. Anyone in the public that would want to speak in support of this application, please raise your hand through the Zoom platform. All right, we'll move on to anyone that would want to speak in opposition to this project. First up is Jessica Harrington.
Okay, I'm not sure if I have to repeat my address for the record, but Jessica Harrington, 464 Granite Road. So I am extremely concerned, given where my property is located. So at this time, I abut one of the properties within the zone that is not currently part of this complex plan. However, with this specific request, that certainly would open up the property next to me to make future requests in zoning changes that could directly impact where I live and my property. The fact that I purchased my home in a place in Guilford where we all have lots of green space and it's very enjoyable. The fact that there is a property owner who is requesting an amendment, not only for where they are immediately building, but a property next to them that may otherwise had not thought anything about ever building. It's now opening up that property to be able to do that, and potentially could put a building of 60 feet directly within my line of sight. And while I appreciate the impact that this complex will have to Guilford and surrounding communities, I just don't want the neighbors that are in the area to be forgotten in all of this. Already I'm hearing buzz and workings going on in different areas around me. I'm concerned about how, when this all begins, already the wildlife disruption that could potentially impact where I live. We already have wonderful black bears and coyotes and fox coming through our yard. This, in my mind, is just going to future displace them in the going forward. And not to mention just increased traffic in the area. And I'm not talking about vehicular traffic, but foot traffic. I understand from the site plans, there's going to be hiking trails and nature trails. And I just want to make sure that everyone out here is aware and listening to the neighbors, and the fact that while this is going to be a positive, it also is going to impact our day-to-day life living around this complex. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. Michael Scott.
Thank you very much. I'm Michael Scott, 593 Towner Swamp Road. I'm a licensed architect, and I hold a master's degree in architecture and urban design from University of Pennsylvania. I've lived on Towner Swamp for 17 years. I served on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the town of Guilford and the zoning subcommittee, so I really appreciate everyone's attention to this application tonight. I have to say that as a design professional, I would not advise a client to pursue this route towards a successful development. If they persisted, I would not send them into a public meeting with such thin and specious exhibits to illustrate their case. The proposed BC2 development is complicated. When I was on P&Z, there were a number of complex applications before the town. The rock pile, the first version of aero paving, the Goose Lane Chabad among them. None of these were as large as the complex that is of this proposed development. I sat through the rock pile presentations. I know firsthand how much data was presented, scrutinized, and arbitrated. Whether you agree with the rock pile or not, as a town and as a public, we deserve and should expect a thorough, transparent, and professional presentation of a proposed development from which you as a commission and we as a community can judge it on its merits. Instead, what I have seen in the press, at the Inland Wetlands Commission, and this evening are partial plans, consistent only in the respect that they change monthly, presented piecemeal, inconsistent within themselves. This does not inspire confidence. You are asked tonight to approve 3 text amendments without the benefit of seeing the whole. As a planning and zoning board, how can you jump ahead to the zone before you have a chance to plan? The MUC1 zone was the result of a thorough planning process. First, the town's plan of conservation and the development, and then the Route 1 West master plan. This thorough process was then described and enumerated in the town's zoning code, establishing the MUC1's bulk standards. There's consistency in the setbacks and building heights, which aim to a coherent whole within its borders, in context with its neighbors, and to the overall Guilford community. Keep in mind that this parcel is the front door to Guilford when you approach our community from the west. Tonight's ask from the applicant undermines all that precedes it. It undermines your current rezoning effort. Worse, it ignores 2 regulatory tools, both the special permit and the Zoning Board of Appeals, which would more normally be used to address any special need or hardship. And most dire, if approved tonight, leaves Guilford at risk in perpetuity to all future uses, plans, or developments on this parcel. Let's just take a look at a few. For the building height, MUC 1 grants 40 feet as of right, 55 via special permit. This is more or less matched with your upcoming zoning amendment. The applicant asked for 60. Why circumnavigate the well-trod special permit process? 60 feet is a 50% increase from the as of right height. It exceeds the highest building height yet contemplated in the current building code by 25%. The current as of right height in Guilford's zoning code is 50 feet, not 60 feet. I happen to know that Guilford High School is 40 feet high. Its gym is closer to 30 feet high. Guilford High School hosts state tournaments in that 30-foot height. What plan are you approving tonight? You're approving a text amendment, not the single version shown on the exhibit submitted by the client. That 60-foot height will apply in perpetuity to any building, athletic or otherwise, developed on this site. If BC2 is not successful in their financing, it's open to the next developer. When you drive down my road, Towner Swamp, the east side is bordered by the ridge line of the Sullivan parcel. That berm is approximately 60 feet above the Towner Swamp roadbed. Can you imagine a structure equally tall perched atop that high berm? As an urban designer and an architect, I can, and it's wholly unacceptable. Regarding the setback, the applicant presents a partial site plan to reduce a single residential setback in order to accommodate an access drive. The ask is slight. It's a minimum encroachment, and it's just an access drive. But let's keep in mind, by approving this zoning amendment, all setbacks from every R8 abutting residential zone will become 100 feet in perpetuity for any future development. And let's aggregate that with the 60-foot building height. So now any 60-foot tall building can be within 100 feet of an R8 parcel. Are we ready to contemplate every single consequence of that? Lastly, the Route 1 setback. Here, the reduction is most significant. Over a 60% reduction of what was previously conceived as appropriate to an overall planning effort. Keep in mind that the Regional Planning Authority does not look at our individual townscape plan. They simply look at its impact to the Long Island Sound and its impact to adjacent municipalities. They don't care if we push our buildings up against Route 1 against ourselves. The stipulated reason for this encroachment, 60% reduction in setback, is still not clear to me. It's because everything that's behind it, or it's for the public benefit of a medical office building and parking. Why can't it simply slide back and remain the 200-foot setback that was carefully planned and stipulated in the current bulk standards? The commissioners tonight were right to look ahead. That's what a planning and zoning commission does. And you're looking ahead to anticipated zoning regulation, which will greatly affect this section of Route 1. However, the public comment period has just begun on that. The few comments that I've seen has expressed grave reservation about density. So let's not undermine that important public process by adopting these zoning amendments in advance of a thought out and thoroughly vetted zoning plan. In conclusion, I'd like to return to the rock pile site to illustrate the unintended consequences of zoning on large parcels like this Sullivan property. In 2020, the site across from the street from the retail rock pile development was granted approval for a quarry operation. It's a large parcel, though not as large as this one, with frontage on Route 1, although not this much frontage. A quarry is not in and of itself a bad use for that parcel that's just down the road. I did not follow the review and approval of the quarry application. Like most of us, COVID was a central concern at the time. And I don't necessarily mean to disparage any efforts towards that application. That said, as an architect and as a planner, I cannot believe that anyone approving that application anticipated a stockpile of rubble stone 30 feet high, literally at the sidewalk of Route 1, with a silt fence as the sole protection for that stormwater system. My point is, with these large parcels, whether explicitly in the application or not, it's hard enough to get these right. Even if we see the whole picture, it places a high demand on our review resources, let alone our enforcement resources. Don't we deserve the respect of a complete plan before we allocate whatever resources we have in order to consider its merit? Again, I've sat through a lot of these meetings, both as an applicant and as a commissioner. I really appreciate everyone's attention to this. It is very important to my family and my neighbors and my community. Thank you.
Thanks. John Newman.
John Newman, 590 Towner Swamp Road, Guilford. Actually, Michael encapsulated a majority of what I wanted to say, specifically referring to the Route 1 West survey that was done back in 2015, where it's giving the measurements and the setbacks and the welcoming, the open arms that Guilford has. And it was specially zoned or written so that we have the rural feeling that Guilford represents. I'm taking a little bit of time here, but I would really appreciate that commissioners deliberate and think about this text amendment, which would also have serious effects going forward, because there is another project that's planned for behind the facility, and that's for 120 or so apartments that was at 3 stories according to the plans. With this text amendment, there would not need to be any special application to raise that residential building to 60 feet, which is right across the street from me. And it would be, for the lack of a better term, an eyesore. Like Michael, I want to thank the commission for its work, and I hope for a deliberate process for this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Robin Freund.
Yes, thank you. So I do want to voice my concern for this and my opposition to this plan. I am opposing the text amendment change. I think that sets a very dangerous precedent for development in Guilford. I believe they should have a special permit, that they should be asking for height variance for this specific project. I think having a text amendment for this MUC1 parcel is, I do not agree with that. And I am concerned with the neighbors and also how large this development is, and echoing Michael Scott's concern that there's not even on the maps that we've seen, the residential buildings are not even part of that yet. So I don't even see where they're going to be. And I feel like if the text amendment is approved, then again, they can just choose to put every single building at 60 feet on this. And I would like to know, I belong to the Y in Brantford, and I don't believe that's 60 feet high. And I'm just concerned that we are setting a precedent that is not required and not necessary for a sports facility. I don't understand how a sports facility has to be 60 feet tall. And I couldn't see on the map how close to the property line on the west the athletic facility was. So I just, basically I am opposing it, and I do think it's a dangerous precedent that would be set by approving this and approving a blanket proposal. And I think that a special permit should be required for this property and for any property that's any developer who wants to do something similar. And I understand they're a nonprofit, but I do not think that that should sway anyone's decision about this property and the importance of what this is going to mean to Guilford. Thank you.
Thanks. Joyce.
Sorry, Scott, if I can just interrupt and let the public know, I'm getting a request to record this meeting locally. Just to let everyone know, this meeting is being recorded. We started that recording. It will be available on the website, and I'm going to deny this local request to record. Thank you.
Thanks. Joyce.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Joyce Ippolito, 586 Towner Swamp Road. I'd also like to build on what my neighbors have said. I don't feel that this is in keeping with the Route 1 West plan that was put out, which says that the Boston Post Road frontage of this property should be undeveloped. It doesn't seem like it fits in with a welcoming atmosphere to have a medical building that's so close to the road. And I also wanted to say that we have these regulations in place for a reason, and I appreciate everything that the committee does. And I'd just like you to hold up, what you do for the town to keep it such a nice place to live, and just look out for us as residents. Excuse me.
Can I just jump in, Scott? Are we still in comments, or are we in opposed or for?
We're in opposed.
Okay.
Opposed,
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Joyce. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. iPad.
Hi, I'm Deneen Foley of 113 Kenneth Circle. I would like to start by saying we are strongly opposed to this project just overall. There's similar athletic facilities nearby, and we have many medical buildings already, and we have empty buildings in town. As a property owner right next to this project, 60 feet is absolutely ridiculous. It is a residential area all around, and it is just too much of a height. As a town member, I think that this, as a text amendment, is very dangerous. It would open up too many others to come along and start building massive buildings in a small town. So I would like to please ask that everyone puts a lot of thought into this, because to change this text amendment would be inappropriate for our town. It would just open up the door for too much. So again, we're opposed, and we would like to ask you to please put a lot of thought into this, because our town doesn't need 60-foot buildings. Thank you.
Thanks. John Silbert.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Silbert. I live at 584 Towner Swamp Road. I'm a 50-year resident of Guilford, 40 of those years on Towner Swamp, which is now half a lifetime. I love this town and this street. We moved here from the Westlake area in 1982, and we found out that the baby girl we were about to adopt had a twin sister, and we needed a larger home in a hurry. So we moved here, we raised our twin daughters here, and we stayed on long after the girls had moved on to productive adult lives. I served 6 years on the Board of Education of Guilford, 2 years as vice chair. So I appreciate what it is that each of you does as a member of a voluntary commission. I understand what it's like to try to balance the concerns of disparate segments of the community, along with a mandate that's provided to you by the laws and regulations that govern your actions. And I also served 21 years as a judge of the Superior Court. So I know what it's like to have to make the kinds of tough decisions that will invariably disappoint some of the people who come before you. And I particularly understand that it's not easy to rule against an applicant who comes before you with what appears to be a sympathetic position, but which the law does not favor. And of course, we've all taken oaths to uphold the law. In this situation, we have what is ostensibly an effort to honor the memory of a young boy from a neighboring town by erecting an athletic complex that will bear his name. On closer examination, however, we have an effort to tie what appears to be that noble objective to what seems to be one of the largest, if not the largest, commercial development in this town has ever seen. And sad to say, that effort appears to bring along with it the prospect of the ruination of the neighborhood in which I reside. As a judge, I dealt with both substance and procedure, as do you. And I have many concerns about the substance of this application, as do all of my neighbors, about which several of them have already commented, many more will comment. And over the course of the life of this application, I recognize that this is not the be all and the end all. You'll hear much more about substance. With that in mind, I'm going to speak only about procedure or about process. And so to keep my comments brief, I'd like to focus on a couple of the questions that have been raised by Michael Scott, my neighbor, who is far more versed in planning and zoning than I will ever be, and also by some of my other neighbors. I'm concerned about what seems to be the incremental piecemeal approach adopted by the proponents of this development, because it seems to be encouraging the approval of little bits at a time, bits and pieces that by themselves might appear relatively innocuous, but which incrementally and collectively seem to be headed toward the creation of a monster, a project that is too large for the available parcel to handle, that threatens wetlands, that poses the specter of a monumental traffic jam on Route 1, that converts narrow Towner Swamp Road, a dirt road, by the way, that my family and I moved here, into a thoroughfare that introduces new risks of light and noise pollution from illuminated parking lots and buildings and cheering spectators, and adds to an already dangerous stormwater drainage problem that risks pollution of our wells and all Towner Swamp Road, by the way, is well water, and so much more. And I'm concerned that the effort to utilize a text amendment for procedure to try to make it easier for the proponent to cement the changes it seeks rather than to have to argue for them on their merits by way of a special permit, which would be the case, I gather, if not for the coincidence that this amendment to the zoning rules is also under consideration right now. Seems to me that's really a dangerous road to follow. It seems to me that the effort to carve out an apparently small change here, a setback, say, and a building height increase there, and increase the number of residential buildings somewhere else, hides from the commission an overall view of what this project will do to this town in general, and of course to our neighborhood in particular. And down the road, the commission could find itself having allowed these piecemeal changes to occur, having created a fait accompli we can't walk back from, and on the cusp of feeling obligated to approve a much larger project than it ever would have considered had it been able to see the entire scope of this project from the beginning. So in sum, my comment is basically this: require the applicant to plead its entire case, not little pieces of it at a time, so the commission can see the complete picture of what it is being asked to approve before it's too late to step back and reconsider. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, John. Pauline Ventnor.
Good evening. Actually, this is her husband, John Venter. My neighbors have basically spoke eloquently about what my feelings are also, so I'm not gonna go on repeating everything I said. I just agree that a text amendment making a blanket change on the whole zoning is just not the way to handle this situation. It's just, whether BC2 goes or someone else goes or future developers, it just opens the door for a lot of issues. No reason why we shouldn't be just using a special permit process, which would make more sense per applicant. So I'm just reiterating, really, for the same reasons my neighbor has already. Actually, I'm at 582 Towner Swamp Road, so I drive up and down Towner Swamp also. So I don't want to take everyone's time. Thank you very much. But I'm just opposing this text amendment process for the complex. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich Schultz.
Thank you. And as John just said, I don't want to drag this out any more than we have to, but I do want to go on record as saying that I too oppose any changing of the zoning at this point in time, and certainly can't add much to what John and some of the other individuals, I'm sorry, Michael and some of the other individuals have said. So I've been here 25 years now. So at any rate, enough said. I'll let you move on to the next person with a question, but that's all I have to say at this point.
Thank you. Mark Tampson.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Well, I'm the southern abutting property owner here. I got about, I don't know, 300 feet that I will be, adjacent to this southern end. And I'll be looking at those residential buildings. It's bad enough that this development has a residential component, the fields and the actual closed in building. That's great. That's up at the north end. I'll never see those. It's probably a good use. I'm opposed to the residential portion of it, because it's going to change the entire neighborhood. And of course, the extra 20 feet go from 40 to 60, sneaking it in like this and holding all future developments in perpetuity. Everybody that's brought it up, go the special route and give it plenty of time for comment. But I am hugely opposed to this. Those residential units, because I'll be looking out there and they'll be staring me right in the face. 40 feet's bad enough. And also that emergency access road, those people, even though it's only going to be a fire access, everybody's going to take the shortcut to this property and use that, and they'll be using Towner Swamp Road. There's no sidewalk there. You're gonna change the whole nature of the neighborhood. But as far as this special amendment and going the other 20 feet, I'm totally opposed to it, and I'll leave that. Enough said.
Thank you. Karen Scott.
Hi, Karen Scott, 593 Towner Swamp Road. So I've lived here for 17 years. I've been a practicing architect and urban planner for over 25 years. I'm opposed to this application, both the content and the process. I think it's skirting standard of care by avoiding a special permit. I have concerns beyond what tonight's focus is, such as environment, light, acoustic, pollution, traffic. But if I want to focus on what I'm hearing today, it's two of the most critical things about zoning, which is setback and height. I mean, setbacks are critical for many reasons, including to protect safety, security, property values, not only the property values of the people adjacent to the parcels, but to the town overall. And then height, could be one of the tallest buildings in Guilford. I question the visual impact, the inconsistencies with the vision of Guilford, the firefighting capacities. It's a lot, and I share so many views that I've heard tonight from others, but I just wanted to say that when the developer discusses this, discusses these plans in the press, it's all about the Guilford community. However, outside of the required pieces of certified mail to notices to the abutters, I'm not aware of a single outreach by the developer to the town, your town or swamp neighborhood, the Kenneth Circle neighborhood, or the Granite Road neighborhood. I just think this should go through the proper channels with the appropriate time and consideration. And I thank you all for your time. I know these are long meetings, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Joseph Walensky.
Hello, thank you. I thank the committee for their time and effort and dedication to better serving this wonderful community. I live at 608 Towner Swamp Road. I've been here for 28 years. This is my home. This is my neighborhood. The people you've heard speak are my friends. I concur with Mr. Scott and Judge Silbert. They articulated brilliantly and with unfettered sincerity the many reasons why this text amendment and the site proposal is problematic and should not be approved by this committee. The applicant is well aware that if this text amendment is approved, any building on this parcel can be heightened to the new maximum limit. And this is true for the current applicant and any future development should this current proposal fail or be withdrawn. What's to stop the applicant from adding another floor to each of the 5 apartment buildings that are currently planned? That would result in 120 plus. We have 120 on the plan now. It could easily be 144 buildings. As it stands, and this was mentioned earlier, this is a tour de force building complex. The medical office building is larger than the medical office building on Goose Lane by at least 5,000 square feet. The housing complex currently at 120 could with your, if you approve this, could go to, and you could do the math and confirm this, it could go to 144 units. By far, the single largest housing complex this town has ever seen. And the athletic complex has problems. To be honest, I am an active soccer member at Guilford. I spent years working with the Soccer Club of Guilford, volunteering with the Soccer Club of Guilford. Guilford Athletics. Does a 60-foot ceiling seem necessary? Certainly, it's worth asking for if I were doing it. Is it necessary? The answer is no. It's very, very easy to determine that there are many bubbles out there where there are competition-sized fields with 40-foot ceilings. Second, the applicant is requesting a setback from Route 1. Why? Why? Because we all know, anyone who has looked at the map and understands engineering knows that Route 1 will be excavated. It will be widened because of an anticipated traffic light and improvements for the line of sight. If you look at the lesser curvature on that road, that's the Sullivan property. The line of sight there, by current Connecticut standards, is approximately 400 feet to the east and the west. That is massive site removal. That's why the applicant needs a minimal setback, because if they go with the current setback and the state of Connecticut says you have to have a line of sight, they're not going to keep that building on the current footprint and the plans run amok. Finally, this business plan has many problems. We'll address them with facts in subsequent meetings that are more appropriate. I really thank you for your time and your service to the community. And I think you get a feeling that, along with my colleagues who I respect tremendously, this is a plan that's just too big for the parcel of land for which it's proposed. Thank you.
Thanks. That's it for folks that have their hands up. Any other, anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Amy Pilati or Kevin Hickson, anything that you would like to speak to after listening through?
Sure, I would just like to, and I'll invite, Doug Shaw and Kevin Hickson to jump in here too. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody, for their comments. It's been instructive. But I also want to reiterate, that although this project is being submitted in phases, it's the intent of the applicant, as discussed, at length, with the town, to, have the phase 2 residential fall under, the new proposed zoning regulations that are, in public comment right now. I appreciate Mr. Scott's, comments, that they're not approved to approved. And I understand that, but it's been the intent of the applicant to wait for those new regulations, and that portion of the development would fall within, those new zoning regulations, and that we could, better address, the town's requirements once those regulations, had been finalized. I'll hand it over to Kevin or Doug if they have any other, questions, comments they want to make.
So Jamie, I was just going to comment on the residential as well. That is a phase 2 project that will be undertaken once we see the new regs. So the concern of being over 60 or being up to 60 feet will have to adhere to whatever the new regs are.
And Kevin Hickson with BL Companies, just to clarify on distances, I know it was asked in the very beginning of the meeting here. We, as far as our property is concerned, it's 1,100 feet from the athletic facility to Route 1 right-of-way line. And it's 950 feet to Towner Swamp Road, 800 to 950 feet to that point. So we're trying to, or with this text amendment, obviously, we're talking about a text amendment. We haven't submitted a site plan application yet, but we are looking to make sure that we cite this so that there is a buffer around the facility. So more to follow on that.
And one thing in conclusion, I appreciate what everyone's had said about the setbacks. It's also my understanding that our application is in accordance with the intent of the new regulations. And again, I appreciate the fact that they won't be adopted till they're adopted. But we've tried, to present an application that does go with the direction we believe the town will be taking under the new, zoning regulations. And I hear everybody's concerns about the height, the building height request for text amendment. And I would ask for the opportunity, to explore the option of limiting our text amendment to just the recreational facility. Because although I do see that it's pointed out that the medical office building might be slightly over, the zoning height, I think that can be adopted, and I'll confer with Kevin Hickson on that. And I think the request could be, limited to the recreational, facility only if that would address some of the commission's concerns.
So are you in effect withdrawing your request for us to consider this tonight?
No, I'm not withdrawing the request to consider it, but I would appreciate the opportunity if the commission has any specific concerns that it thinks would be alleviated by amending our application to having a further, discussion or opportunity to address those, concerns.
Great, thank you. All right, Jamie, there's not a requirement for this to go to meetings, correct?
No,
That
not
messed up.
an application.
Okay. Commissioners, I guess I'll go around and see how everyone's feeling in terms of if there is a thought that we would adjust some of the wording on part of the text amendment, or if, or not. Sean, it looks like you had an opinion.
I think that this is, it's almost textbook special permit. I just don't see how we're getting it around that.
What, can you repeat yourself, please?
What's that?
Repeat what you said. I missed it.
I think this is textbook special permit. We should not make a text amendment.
Where that sound is. Can you mute, Mr. Lewinsky? Thank you.
Did you hear it? Did you hear what he
Yeah,
said?
we did. Sorry, there was a
Yes,
little
thank you.
background
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll see it again.
Energy. Okay, Bill Freeman.
Yeah, I'm in Sean's camp. I think it kind of reminds me of other things we've kind of run across where, it seems the intent of the applicant is really good and clear, but it also does have a lot of loose edges and possible other ramifications that we can't necessarily predict. And so I think that it does really fall more under the special permit, or I don't know if the new plan development district criteria would fit for this. I don't know enough about whether it's just along Route 1 or if it happens to cover the entire town. Maybe Jamie could clarify that.
It's 3 different lots that can be combined into one. And then the regulations for those lots are being consolidated is what's proposed in the upcoming regulations. Correct, Jamie? Is it 3 different zones?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I heard 2 questions there. One, to answer Bill's question, the plan development district is a tool that can be used throughout town, not just specific.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
And
So
then,
to me, that sort of either special permit or plan development district, which would put very
Yeah, but isn't that
distinct.
residential districts, Jamie?
there has to be a residential component. I can check. I don't have it right in front of me, Scott.
Yeah, and I tried to look it up quick, but it was trying to pay attention. So one of those 2 elements would seem more appropriate, specific to this particular project, given its size and sort of sensitivity to the neighbors.
Okay. Ed Sands.
I think this is, I'm very uncomfortable with the idea of this being a text amendment. I think this needs to be a special permit. And so that we can be real clear as to what is being allowed at 60 feet and what's being allowed at 40 feet. And this, I'm troubled by the fact that this property has had several proposed developments on it, and that if we make a amendment to the regulations and then this proposal falls through, whoever is the next developer to try and do something with this proposal would have, all kinds of leeway. I think this just needs to be a special permit for this specific development.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks. All right, well, Larry, Kevin, Frank, is there any difference of opinion there?
I would agree, but I would also point out that the proposed regulations have not been approved. And if I'm listening to all the people who have spoken tonight, I can imagine them jumping onto our website and making comments that the 75-foot setback should be left where it is, or at least larger than 75 feet. So
I hope they do
don't
make
think-
comments. I hope we get lots of comments.
So yeah, folks, are you listening? You got to go to the website and make comments. So a 75-foot setback is not necessarily where the town's going. The town hasn't spoken.
Okay.
So Otherwise, I agree with the other comments of the commissioners.
Kevin or Frank, any difference of opinion there?
No, no, about the same. I'd still like to also, I think by doing a special permit, you're going to trigger fire, police. We'll be able to probably get some agencies to comment instead of just guessing. And I know Jamie had a good conversation with Jim, but you know, something for the record, maybe.
And I think at the bottom line is we'll have a more specific plan to respond to in a special permit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Kevin.
No, just one quick thing. I am in complete 100% agreement with all my fellow commissioners on this. Another thing, I've heard stories, both different sides. One side saying they are following the plan of conservation and development. I've heard plenty of comments to the other side saying they're not following the plan of conservation and development. So I definitely would, I haven't read it in a while, so I want to revisit that. And also too, I've never read the Route 1 West stuff. Is that easily accessible? I would love to kind of dip into that a little bit and see what the spirit of the context of that whole thing was about.
that's what they're referring to. They're actually referring to that plan. They're not referring to the overall POCD. Typically, when they're talking about the setbacks and everything.
What Kevin is asking for is access to the.
Yeah, I'm sure Jamie has that easily accessible for everyone.
Because I know the plan of conservation development is easily accessible on the town website. I've never seen a link for the Route 1 West. Is Route 1 West contained in the plan of conservation development? I didn't think it was.
No, I can make that available as part of the application material, but also it's not as readily available on the website as the POC.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
So Scott, if I'm hearing this correctly, there's got to be a denial here then if there's no withdrawn on this particular.
Correct. Jamie, the only thing, can you speak to, well, I guess it doesn't matter. Okay, so yeah, I would be looking for, does someone want to make a motion related to this application?
Do we have any other business before the commission tonight?
Oh, yeah, we got lots.
Yeah, well, we need to make a motion to close the public hearing first.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Second.
First, second from Sean. Discussion. I think we've talked this out. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
and I also vote yes to close.
I'll vote yes too.
Oh, sorry, Frank.
Scott, you're forgetting me all night tonight, pal.
You feel like you jumped in at the last minute.
Second time.
Don't forget Frank.
No.
right.
Scott,
Thank you.
before your next motion, may I ask, would it aid the applicant if we withdrew our application and proceeded through a different procedural vehicle?
Well, I mean, certainly if you're trying to tease apart the setbacks from the height, then I would recommend that you go a different route than letting us vote on this.
Okay, if I could just have a moment to confer with my client on that, I'm going to pause my screen.
We do have two other public hearings.
I appreciate it.
Go through,
Just
so
1 minute.
We're not necessarily, we're not gonna deliberate.
We're not gonna wait for you. We're gonna move on.
We're not gonna deliberate on public
Well,
hearing.
we will
It's
circle
difficult because we're not in the
later.
same room via Zoom, but I'll go ahead and withdraw the application on behalf of the applicant.
Thanks. Do we have to make that motion, Jamie?
To accept.
I'm out over my skis on this one. I believe you closed the public hearing.
Sure.
And now the applicant has withdrawn the application.
Based on the
So-
comments from tonight, we appreciate everybody's time and we'll withdraw the current application and, proceed through a different procedural vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, if we need to continue it to the next meeting in order to officially put a bow on it, we can, but whatever you think is the best way to
If-
handle
If they've withdrawn, I don't know what there is to deal with.
It's
Yeah.
done.
I think procedurally, it's fine that the applicant has stated on the public record that the application is withdrawn. I think that you can, sort of, after that, you don't have to deliberate.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Next item
Next.
on the public agenda, and thanks everyone for your time and comments.
Thank you.
Appreciate
you all.
appreciate you getting involved. Guilford Agricultural Society, 111 Lovers Lane, map 40 lot 138, zone R3, special permit application to modify the effective date of the fairgrounds new special permit approved in December 2022 from June 12th to May 1st. Barb, my only question is, you're not gonna have to come back and change it to April 1st, are you? Do we need to just change it to like the present?
So my fault.
No.
Here's Barb with her good connection.
That was good.
I'm back
That was good.
downtown.
Broadcasting from the moon.
No, it's the reason being is it wasn't expected, but we have the opportunity for the farm market at the fairgrounds, and the first market is scheduled for May 4th. And the farm market was part of the special permit.
Oh.
That's the only reason we want to move it up to May 1st. And I think the farm market's going to be an awesome addition to the town and the townspeople.
It's about time the fairgrounds got one.
Exactly.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yep.
Sounds great.
Is this a question from the public, Shirley? Or
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if I'm part of the public or an ex officio member of this board,
Yes,
but
sir.
I completely support this application. I think this is a wonderful addition to the town of Guilford and continues to support the work the Agricultural Society does. And I'm pleased to also report that this does not impinge on other farm markets that we have in town, particularly the Dudley Farm Market on Saturdays. And I believe I've actually bought some products from Barbara at the Dudley Farm Market over the years. So I completely support this.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Just to summarize for all those listening, there was an approved special permit was approved back in December 2022, and the approval had a June 12th start date for the special permit. And simply they're not asking to change anything else other than to change that approval date to May 1st. The June 12th approval date was relatively arbitrary. So that's the reason why they're coming here before us today. Any questions from the public on this item? Would anyone like to speak? Anyone else like to speak in support of this application? And is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Since this is a special permit, there's a requirement for it to be 2 public hearings, although we can waive that with a 3/4 vote. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that we waive the requirement for the second hearing.
Second.
All right, thank you, Ted. And I think that was Kevin. Thanks, Kevin.
No, it's Bill, but it's okay.
All right, I'll give it to Kevin.
I just
anyway.
had my hand up to vote yes, that's all.
Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Kevin Clark is a yes. Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. Well, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this item.
So move.
Second.
And Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yep.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea,
Affirmative.
and I will. Yes. Thanks, Barb. We'll act on this tonight.
All right, thank you very much, all. Have a good evening.
All right. Last item on the public hearing agenda is BW Bishops and Sons, Inc., 488 New England Road, map 84, lot 34, zone R5, special permit application for 2 farm accessory buildings greater than 750 square feet. Sarah, you might be muted.
I am. No, I'm not. All right. Jamie, if you've got the information, anything that needs to be pulled up, but we are looking to put up 2 pole barns, one 48 by 72 and another one that's 30 by 40 up in well into the orchard where we have an existing, in the area where we have existing buildings right now.
For the record, just state your address.
Sorry, Sarah Della Ventura, 54 Huckleberry Court, Guilford. Thank you, Sean. So Jamie's pulling up the location right now on the map. You can see we have 2 existing buildings right now. One's an old Quonset hut that's in the center of the screen. And then over to the left, we have a pavilion for anyone who's been up there for pick your own season. They're 2 very visible buildings when you're during the picking season. Needing more farm storage, we're looking to put a 30 by 40 back a little bit further. That's the one at the top of the map for tractors, farm supplies, things that, so we don't have to be moving them back and forth as much as we do. Currently, we don't have the storage space and we will continue to drive up and down Long Hill Road as needed, but we'd like to be able to store some more stuff up there. And then the larger building, the 48 by 72 is the one at the lower side, need for other farm, pick your own equipment, things like that, and being able to kind of use that as the central hub for the fall season.
Sarah, are you anticipating any entertainment at these venues, at these sites?
Eventually, I'm waiting for the regulations to be passed on for June 1st, right, Jamie?
Yes.
But these buildings would not be part of any of event buildings used for at this time. This is strictly for a central hub to locate, to kind of filter people through and around for how we process checkout and again, seasonal year-long farm storage.
And you did mention that this is off of New England Road.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Right.
So I don't know how much more detail you need, but go ahead, Scott, if you've got questions.
No, any other questions from commissioners?
Well, just sort of to piggyback on what Sean asked, is the eventual goal to sort of utilize the plan development district function and create something different up there that might utilize these buildings differently, or?
No, not with this parcel. Not at this time. That's not.
They're really meant to be for farm use.
This is farm use and for pick your own, correct?
Okay, perfect. Will you be getting rid of the Quonset building or keeping that?
Eventually, but that's not in the cards, at least for this year. It's somewhat of an eyesore. We're hopefully going to just dress it up with some nice plantings around it, seeing as it's going to be more of the central hub for the fall pick your own agritainment stuff that we do up there now. But that building will remain intact for at least some time.
That's an interesting concept, agritainment.
Should be a word in the Webster's dictionary.
Definitely.
All right. Any other questions from commissioners? Do we have any questions from the public? Jamie, if you would take that down so we can see everybody. Anyone like to speak in favor of this application? Would anyone want to speak in opposition to this application? For lack of being a broker record, I would remind commissioners that there's a special permit that takes 2 public meetings. We can waive that requirement with a 3/4 vote. And I'd like to make a motion.
So moved.
So you're moving, just to be clear, you're moving to waive. public hearing.
Yes.
I'm clear about, I'm clear about that.
Thank you.
Excuse me,
We need
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Before you, I think you can make a decision to waive the second public hearing, but we do have a memo from the environmental planner to read into the record.
That'll be great. Let's do that after we've got this motion. The sec, who, I missed the second, I'm sorry. What do we have for the second? Okay, so we'll give it to Bill then. Thank you. Larry Zola,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Sands,
Yes.
Will Freeman,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Affirmative.
Frank D'Andrea,
Yes, sir.
and I'll also vote yes. All right, we have a memo. Let's give it to Mr. Frank D'Andrea.
To the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission from Kevin McGee, our environmental planner. Site plan and special permit for Bishop's Orchards, 40 New England Road, Guilford, Connecticut, assessor map 84, lot 34. Bishop's Orchard plans on a construction of a 3,456 square foot and 1,200 square foot, one-story pole barn farm accessory buildings. Pond is located down gradient of the proposed buildings, which is outside of the inland and wetlands regulated review area. The plans for the project do not show any sedimentation and erosion control measures in accordance with 273-97B subsection 6 of the zoning regulations. In addition, no stormwater or low impact development practices are shown on the plans. I recommend the following conditions of approval in order to make sure the natural resources are protected. 1, soil erosion control measures be installed adjacent to the proposed accessory prior to any site disturbance. 2, that a stone infiltration trench be installed under the roof eaves to the accessory buildings.
Ms. Delanueva, do you have any issue with those stipulations from Kevin or those recommendations, Kevin?
The only one I may defer to Mike, on the second, comment that Kevin made, there's no issues there. We have a 10-foot surrounding on both buildings for gravel for stormwater runoff of the building for the roof line. And Mike, do you want to speak on the erosion? I think Mike he's popped back on there.
Sure. Just for the record, I'm Mike Ott. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Summerhill Civil Engineers in Madison. I don't think we have any objection to installing a silt fence sediment barrier. The pond that I think Kevin is talking about is some 990 feet away. The grades in the building areas, the land slope is 3 to 4% or so, but there's, I don't think we'd have any objection to installing some silt fence.
Just for clarification on my part, and just understanding for the silt fencing, what the time period is that needs to be up, Mike?
Oh, right, before they start disturbing.
Okay. But it can be
Yeah,
taken down after the building is up.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I assumed. I just wanted to clarify just to make sure that.
Yeah.
And let's be clear, David Young. You don't have any objection. Let's just say you'll do it.
Yes, we'll do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other items that we missed, Jamie?
No, sir.
Would anyone like to make a motion to close the public hearing on this item?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Oh, man, everybody jump at once.
Yeah, I missed it.
Everybody's getting punchy.
All right, so Larry will get it, and I know that Frank coming on a second. Larry Rizzola,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank D'Andrea,
Aye.
and I will also vote yes. Thanks, Will. Deliberate on this evening. All right, moves on to deliberation of public hearing items. Anybody want to make motion on any of our public hearing items? I guess we only have 2. Gilbert,
Make a motion that we approve the change in the effective date from June 12th to May 1st, 2023 for the Guilford Agricultural Society.
Second.
Is that good enough for you, Jamie? Or do you want to add the
Oh.
legalese?
For that one it is, but please let me pull up one for the bishops.
Yep, absolutely.
Did you
All right.
have one written for the other one?
No, she did not.
Oh,
I
didn't think
did.
so.
Oh, she did.
It's
Oh, just
fine.
it?
I just was winging it.
I've got it.
You
That's
encapsulated
what I
it
mean.
just fine.
You're pretty
Thank you.
close, Bill. It's amazing.
Normally she likes to write that like, you know, it conforms with the zoning code, blah, blah.
If you wouldn't mind, I mean, just sort of entertain me here. One moment, please. Sorry, Bill.
Little reading bell.
I didn't see one written, so.
Okay, let me just get this for you. My apologies. You'll see how spot on you were, Bill. You'll see.
Perfect.
Pretty
Almost
good.
almost verbatim,
Yeah,
Bill.
that
Pretty
is.
You want me to read that then as well, eh?
Yes, please.
Proposed motion approval of 111 Lovers Lane, Guilford Fairgrounds, voted the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approved the request for the Guilford Agriculture Society, Inc. to amend the start date of the revised and approved December 2021-2022 special permit for Guilford Fairgrounds located at 111 Lovers Lane, map 40, lot 138, zone R-3. New effective date will be May 1st, 2023 upon filing with the town clerk.
And I had a second from Frank.
Yep, 3-second.
Discussion. All right, Larry Zoll,
Yes.
and Kevin Clark,
Yep.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
John Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea,
I like Kevin, so yep.
and I will also vote yes. All right, anyone else like to make a motion related to BW Bishop and something?
If you put it up, I'll read it. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit application for construction of 2 farm accessory buildings greater than 750 square feet. The submitted plans include, quote, new farm accessory building site plan, end quote, land of BW Bishop and Son Incorporated, 480 New England Road, Guilford, Connecticut, dated March 24th, 2023, prepared by Summerhill Civil Engineers, Inland Surveyors, PC1 sheet, submitted architectural drawings, quote, building number 1, Bishop's Orchard, 30 by 40 by 14 SL doors, dated March, end quote, dated March 14th, 2023, 6 sheets, quote, building number 2, Bishop's Orchard, 48 by 72 by 12, with a 48 by 12 by 10 porch, end quote, dated March 14th, 2023, 6 sheets. This application is approved with the following conditions. 1, pursuant to state statute, this approval is valid for the period of 5 years following the date of decision until April 19th, 2028. Upon petition of the applicant, the commission may, at its discretion, grant extensions totaling no more than an additional 5 years to complete all work connected to the original approval. 2, as recommended by the environmental planner, A, soil and erosion control measures shall be installed adjacent to the proposed accessory structures prior to any site disturbances. B, to manage stormwater and stone infiltration trench be installed under the roof eaves of the proposed accessory structures. 3, the zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles shall be contained by silt fencing, hay bales, and or any other temporary physical barriers. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable materials installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the town of Guilford zoning code.
Thank you. For a second.
Second.
Good. Discussion. Larry Rizzolo,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Aye.
Frank DeAndrea.
Yep.
and I vote yes. Happy building. Regular meeting, we have no pending applications to talk about, no new applications to talk about. Other commission business, was anyone able to review the minutes from April 5th meeting?
I read the minutes and they seem substantially correct.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
You're moving to approve, I assume.
Yes, the substantially correct minutes.
All right. Discussion? Larry Rizzolo,
Abstain.
okay. Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
Sean Cosgrove,
Yep.
Mike DeAndrea.
Affirmative. I'm
Affirmative.
sorry, you guys killing me.
Ms. Stein, any additional things to discuss here this evening?
I do have something that I'd like the commission to just weigh in on. As you know, we're moving forward with a public hearing of our zoning regulations, the proposed draft zoning regulations for May 17th. Couple of questions here for you. One is that meeting, would you like it to be virtual, hybrid, or in person?
I think it should be in person.
I would agree. I would agree with Ted. I think it should be in person.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't have any problem.
What do you think about
So,
offering
so-
it
but-
as
but
a
it could
hybrid,
be-
hybrid option?
So,
I think so, Jamie.
Mhm.
You're. I'm gonna, be a little bit sarcastic.
Okay, it's fine.
So, are you able? Are you the master of technology to?
Yes, I am the hybrid master of technology. I think that,
Okay.
I
you
was-
saw
I
me
was-
sitting in the room, for several meetings by myself. I think it is of the importance that we should offer an in-person option, but
Okay,
I have also
right.
seen.
What I was gonna say was I would
But
prefer.
the question will be, what level of participation will we have? And we probably can't do it at the community center. If we have to do it at, we can't do it at the smaller rooms. Should we do it in the larger room?
Yeah, I would assume that we would just go with the bigger room.
Yeah.
I was gonna say was that, Jamie, I would prefer that we find somebody, town staff, that is able to run the hybrid portion of the meeting so that you are left to just help answer questions, help speak.
Yeah, so
somebody else
Glenn
that
will
could-
be there. Yep, yeah.
Somebody else, Glenn also could speak. I would rather have somebody else to run the things behind the scenes, so that you don't have to worry about that portion of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you for that.
I would agree. And, maybe it's baked in to this kind of thing, but please do a dry run. Make sure it works.
Mr. Hurley, you comment?
You don't want the public to show up and have, something dry.
Sure.
So please make sure.
Matt,
Mr. Chairman, you can conduct a hybrid meeting in the room that the Board of Finance traditionally runs their meetings. I'm not sure which room you guys used prior to you guys going into the COVID protocols, but I'm assuming it was on the second floor, the biggest room, the big room on the second floor.
The Mononkatuk room, up on the right.
Yeah,
Right.
as you get up the stairs, it's where the Board of Finance has it. We made
Matt, you're talking about town hall.
No, I'm talking about the community center. On the second floor of the community center, where the Board of Finance holds their regularly monthly meetings, we made an investment in technology that allows for up to 30 or so people to sit in the audience while the Board of Finance is sitting at their table closest to the outside wall. And they have all the technology you need there to conduct a full hybrid meeting. And no offense, folks, but when's the last time you had more than 30 or 40 people show up at a planning and zoning meeting?
There was a lot of people very concerned about raccoons and.
Number one.
Right. So I
Given
think you
this
can
last,
I think you can effectively hold a hybrid meeting in that room, provided that it is available to you You guys used to have that meeting night in that room reserved. I don't know if you're.
Yeah, I'd have to confirm with Parks and Rec, but that is the room that I'm comfortable in. That's the room that we held our hybrid meetings in.
Right.
You know, I would be comfortable doing that.
Right, and we'll make
But-
available to you, folks who can ensure that the process works right. At least for the Board of Finance, the clerk of that committee is the one that actually manages the Zoom interactions. And I think we can certainly provide whatever training is necessary to facilitate that. I will say, Scott, the worst thing in the world, and I did it today, is running a Zoom meeting. I did it for the Tweeden Haven Airport, and you're running, you're trying to manage who wants to speak and that kind of stuff. So I think you're absolutely right that somebody, either staff or the clerk, is the one that runs the Zoom meeting, and you can continue to operate the meeting independently.
Yep, that'd be great.
I would like to make a note that, what was it, Jamie, 30 years ago that we had a major rewrite of regulations, and we've got this very controversial issue about incentivized housing, affordable housing. And we had how many people on this meeting? 40 or so, 45?
This evening was 43, yeah. Mhm.
Up in arms about setbacks. I think we have to have confidence that if that room that Matt suggests is too small, that Zoom will work in the large room on the first floor.
I am totally with
Larry, that's a technical limitation. We do not have the equipment that would migrate from the room that it is currently in to the large room downstairs.
I have an
And I
idea.
also know, but Matt, to that point, if there are not enough seats in the room for the people that show up, we are obligated to put off the meeting. We can't hold the meeting unless we can accommodate everyone that wants to come
No,
and
Larry,
sit.
there's a way to do a reservation for seats in the room. It's more complicated than any of us want to contemplate, but there is a way to say that will be certain number of seats available in the room that you can register for. And those that do not get a registration are accommodated via Zoom. It's the same rules we use for ADA compliance.
Got it.
Amy?
Yeah, I did have another idea, Matt. I think this might work. If Nigel were posted in the larger room where we held our public information meeting on the first floor, and he was in the Zoom meeting, we could work with Todd to probably project, his view for a wider audience that could sit there, and then I could run the hybrid from the Mononkatuk room. Will that work? Does that make sense?
It's a very good question. Let's talk to the people who actually know something about the technology and how it works. That would be
we'll do a little.
Nigel and Todd, people much younger than I am. Nigel, Todd, and our IT folks, to see whether or not we could make something like that work.
I think we might be able to make that work. Yeah.
All right.
I just want to echo Larry's comments about the fact that we could get a higher turn. We should be prepared.
Yep. Yes, thank you. In addition to that, I just also want to at least put it in front of you, if not have you make some decisions, but with the continuation of the Visoyu NAP application and the assumption that we will not be approving the draft zoning regulations in one meeting, I just want to hear your thoughts on continuing to accept applications and scheduling them with the zoning regulations public hearings. Today we received a special permit application that is in time to be notified for the May 17th meeting. So I'd like for you to consider that and offer how you'd like to proceed.
Or are you somewhat suggesting that there be a bit of a pause with applications for the 35 days? Or
I don't really know how sustainable that really is, Bill. I kind of feel like we have to try to do both at once.
I don't
like the idea of not accepting applications. I think what we need to do is to separate our normal business from the hearings that are going to go on about the change to the regulations. I think those are two separate things and they should be on separate dates.
That's not how it works. It's technically just an item within a normal meeting is technically what it is.
Well, then maybe we need to have more than 2 meetings a month in that case. I don't think we should be closed for business while we're dealing with the new regulations, because that could go on for a while. And, people need to move forward with or not with their various applications.
I'm fine with them being long nights, honestly. If others are okay with that as well.
Yeah, I think in fairness to the public, we accept applications and hear them in the normal course of our business.
All right.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
I have a general question. People have been asking me about the, inclusionary housing aspect of things, and they specifically asked me about the math, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not quite sure how it works. So is there anybody that has done like
about the math
of how it would look if you came to with a 10 condo project for, blankety blank? I mean, have we penciled it out ever so that we could say, all I hear is from people, oh, it's just going to make it, great, or it's going to make it horrible. I don't really have a way of defending either position.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I can have Nigel just run like a scenario.
What if? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be helpful.
The intention, it was my understanding, the intention of putting it in there was for people to ask questions. So.
Right.
But
good
they're
question.
asking me specifically questions, which makes me feel rather dumb because I don't know the answer to those questions. And I should kind of have an idea how the math works.
Y'all want to leave it in there.
Yeah, Bill, the short answer to anyone who asks, we're behind the 8 ball.
No, come on. The short answer is if it's 2 or more units, the mandatory.
I have that part, but then they were like, what about how does it affect them? If it's 12% of, I don't have like a spreadsheet to look at and, to point to.
Right. The math is.
We can run a few scenarios so you can feel comfortable.
So
and then
Sean,
I was gonna. The people are asking me, to tell them how to do it, and I'm like, I don't know, run,
Sean, thank you for highlighting how I make most of my important decisions in my office. This is a crazy 8 ball.
Yep.
And it's on my conference table. That's how we make decisions
around here. So, Jamie, should I contact?
Matt, our confidence in you only grows.
Well, it depends on the next question you ask.
Yes, you can please direct any questions regarding how that regulation would be, as written, enforced
Because there's a couple different scenarios, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the short answer to the question is read the regulation and you'll be able to figure it out. I mean, there's no rocket science happening in there. So, it's just.
For some reason, when someone calls you on the phone and you're standing, out in the public and they're asking you these questions.
Of course, it's the story of my life. It's fine. You just have to.
So I'm just going to say, call Jamie.
And walk through it and write it out. And, it's just the way it is.
That's what I told him. But.
Good.
But I thought it'd be helpful.
Bill, the answer is don't go out in public.
My wife would agree with that.
Okay. Before we get too off the rails, I'd like to entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you, Ted. Your second?
Second.
Thank you, Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it.
Yeah, I just have it.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thanks for all the work you guys do.